Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto.
In a world on the brink of disruption, two men will bring you clarity by interviewing some of the most intelligent and influential names in the blockchain world. Welcome to Show Me the Crypto with your hosts, Wade Patterson and Ulf Lonergan.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Show Me the Crypto. My name is Wade Patterson.
And I'm Ulf Lonergan.
We're a couple of friends from Canada who love learning about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, and we're happy you're along for the ride. Whether you're a crypto virgin or you know your way around the block, we hope our interviews with some of the most intelligent and influential people in the blockchain space help deliver you with value. And on this episode, we're joined by Jenson, co-founder of DeadHeads, which is the first ever multimedia brand that gives verifiable ownership of its intellectual property to its fan base by utilizing NFT technology. The animated series follows a character named Damien, who early in episode 1 is quoted as saying, "It wasn't until I died that I found a reason to live." With Jeremy's background in film and marketing and co-founder Tempo's background in artificial intelligence artwork, the pair are creating something truly innovative in the NFT space. Jeremy, welcome to Show Me the Crypto.
Thanks, guys. So happy to be here. I'll be giving a middle finger to the DeadHeads fan. That's a sign of respect.
Why don't we start there? Because I always see that in the Discord, the middle finger up. How did all of that come about?
That's all Tempo. The middle finger is a sign of respect in the underworld because when we started marketing DeadHeads at the beginning in the summer, it was all about kind of like saying F you to the existing NFT cohort because it was a very tight knit. We all buy fidenzas and art blocks and squiggles. And then we saw, it was like, we really didn't like the way the space was so tight knit. Now, obviously it's like completely parabolic and everyone in the world knows what they are. But so the middle finger was like an F you to like the general like populace saying like DeadHeads is going to take its own approach. And that's what it's done. Tempo had a piece of artwork from Beeple with the middle finger on that he won in a raffle. So it just became a sign of respect in the world.
I love it too, because like if there's an announcement that you don't know how it's gonna go, it's like the middle finger. It's like it seems all positive. Yeah. So that's great.
yeah, you can't miss.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to start off with talking a little bit more about your background. So I mentioned there background in film, but also background in marketing. So what did that look like, your pre-DeadHeads career?
So my pre-DeadHeads career is I went to school for media, information, and technoculture. And I graduated a year early in 2017. And I spent some time in Hong Kong and I was traveling around the world. And my whole passion the whole time growing up was film. So in high school, and I was making films and going to student film festivals around the world and like really super passionate. So when I graduated with my degree, I went right into film. But what I learned is the people who work on films, it's not like a bunch of creators, like as you would picture with like music or any other art form. It's actually laborers. You have hundreds of people who just set up lighting or move equipment or move batteries, and they're all executing on a vision that isn't often even the director's vision or the director of photography. It goes even higher. It goes up to the studio. Anyway, so I didn't like the whole process because I felt like everything I loved about film was stripped when you actually worked on a film set. But that's neither here nor there. I kind of went off. I found my way into social media, marketing, and to figuring out different ways in this marketing agency to like level up. And then eventually I got so many of my own clients to do with marketing that I went and built my own consultancy agency. And I did that for like years, like 3 years. And then Tempo called me and he's like, I got this artificial intelligence artwork. Would you mind helping me out with some e-commerce tips and like getting us off the ground?
Just to stop you there.
Yeah.
Just to stop you there. So you and Tempo, like how far back do you guys go then? You already knew each other at that time. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we met in high school, and if you want me to go on that little tiny story of the AR work there, but we basically just had we built this e-commerce website in a few weeks, and we started selling these artificial intelligence artworks. And in the first month, we'd done really well. We sold like $10,000 like in our first month, these artificial intelligence artworks, and we were like, "There's something here." But NFTs were coming up at the same time. This was January 2021, and we called OpenSea, and we're like, "Hey, we're finding a ton of love for this artwork, and you guys are verifying artwork is like your platform." And we made a little partnership to drop on their homepage, and the rest is history.
And so, just to take kind of probably in the middle of there somewhere, like when was it that you first discovered crypto? Were you already well aware of that when you started working with Tempo and getting into NFTs? And so what was your first exposure to crypto in general?
Yeah, so I've been exposed to crypto and I've been following along. So I'd heard of NFTs, but I hadn't really dived in until that January in 2021, where there was kind of like a reason to jump in because I had the artwork. But my involvement in crypto actually goes back to, Quadriga?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
Do you want to give the audience a little description of what
so
happened?
here's my understanding of it. And I was lucky because I wasn't burned too bad, but it was an exchange that was based here in Canada where basically you could link like your Canadian bank account. I think it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe something else that you could trade there. And then the founder, Gerald Cotton, there's like a whole mysterious, they've done podcasts on this, whether or not he maybe died in India, and the whole thing, basically they lost a lot of people's money. Is that correct to your understanding?
Yeah, so like for some reason, the only keys to this exchange were with the founder who vanished, like disappeared off the face of the earth in India, or for some reason or other. And so everyone who had money in this exchange lost all their money. And so I had a Bitcoin in there, and I had some Ripple for some stupid reason. I don't know. Like I just aped it.
Ripple was hot back then.
Ripple was hot, man. And so I lost that. But I wasn't like a day-to-day follower, it wasn't my like life. It was merely something I'd done and then turned away from and like stayed in some subreddits.
And then in terms of, so DeadHeads, like I want to take a few minutes here and just break down that full roadmap because there's so much going on, but just in general, so you guys come up with this idea and you produce it, but like, can you just break down the process to where we are now in terms of what has been done so far and how the community has been built?
I would love to. Just to circle back, DeadHeads is an entertainment brand that allows people to own their characters. We just came up with that, and I'm going to start using that more often.
Love it.
You got to get that 10-second pitch down. That's perfect. Exactly.
So in essence, we're trying to steer ourselves this direction. So for those who don't know what DeadHeads is exactly, that's what it is. It's an entertainment brand where people own characters. So a lot of unknown NFTs are for PFPs and so things like this. And we offer that. We give you 2D PFPs and we jump into all these different aspects. But at our core, what we're trying to do is create a model where if you had Bart Simpson in the first season of Simpsons, what would he be worth in the 12th? Well, that would be astronomical. But even if you had a background character, it would be massive. And then if you had the IP and the rights to back that up, your investment in that character could be like diverse into books or games or movies or what have you. So of your own. So we just figured that model, NFTs enabled that. To get to this point, what happened was when we started in crypto and in NFTs, and we started with the artificial intelligence artwork, we realized it was unsustainable to hold a community around a stagnant piece of art, which everyone has now realized because you can see all the stagnant pieces of art have fallen off the map. So we were figuring out trying to figure out the best way to make a project, and I looked at Top Shot, and they have a narrative. Their narrative is the NBA. Every shot, every game, every trade, every day the NBA happens, there's a reason to collect Top Shot. There's no reason to collect AR artwork over time other than liking the artwork, which is still massive, don't get me wrong, but that's like a 50-year thing, right? That's not like a 6 month what people want. So anyways, we have to build a narrative. So then I looked at my history in film and I was thinking the coolest NFT ever, if there was one, would be like Pokemon. In my opinion, the coolest NFT ever would be Pokemon. So then I was like, how could we like look at Pokemon's model, but adapt it for the one-of-ones and fit it in that, what Bored Ape was like a month before us, but fit in that Bored Ape like wave, because that wave was just starting then. Who knew it would be where it is at now? But we overtook Bored Ape at some points in that journey. But yeah, we just looked at that model and tried to apply it to like entertainment, and that's where we are now. And that's where DeadHeads comes in, because we're able to create these episodes and have all these characters individually owned and then incorporate them in interesting ways like staking pool and things that we'll talk about later.
But even going further than that, so I mean, you guys are 4 episodes deep, waiting on episode 5, which is coming shortly, to my understanding. But like, what is the team? How are those episodes being created? Is that community driven? Do you have your own team as part of DeadHeads specifically?
So we have our own team. we have we basically went on when we first started, we looked at YouTube, an animation contest of YouTubers. There was like hundreds of animators who all submitted. We watched every single one and tried to find the best ones. Cool. And then we pulled them together and then said like, hey, like we want to start building these episodes with you. But the problem was we didn't have like, we were sourcing writers from the community. And it's not a problem, but it definitely left like a hole in like, left a hole in storytelling, because we're, unlike usual IP where you have a book and it goes to a movie or a TV show or whatever, we have like the community from the movie and TV show, the fans, and now we're trying to go back to the book. So this process has like never been done, which just makes it so hilariously interesting for us, because we have to find our story. We have to find our legs. So right now we have a team of about 20 people, and we have these animators, and we have our writers on 5 and 6 are now professional writers, and it shows. And we had the guy who did the Simpsons previses, which is storyboarding. He just did the episode 5 previs for us. So we have some crazy people coming into our fold now. But even then, our story isn't defined like as much as we need it to be if we want to be like the next Simpsons. So the plan is with these shorts, and I think all DeadHeads holders should be most excited about the shorts, because I am, is we're able to experiment with different writers, directors, and studios on every single one. This means we're going to have an exploratory period of figuring out our voice that we never got to have. Right. Because we jump right into the episodes to like satisfy the like thirst of like having the episodes and having them full. We put the horse before the cart. Now we kind of go back and get to do shorts. And shorts are good too, because the internet runs off shorts right now. TikTok, YouTube shorts, Snapchat. So if you're not going to be like a literal full-fledged, like season, like TV show, your next best bet is to try and find your audience in shorts and then becoming a TV show. So that's what we're looking at now. I don't know if that directly answered your question, but there's so much happening and I'm so excited about it that I did my best.
I think it's a hard question to answer, because we have basically asked what is everything that has happened to this point. And I'd love to get into more detail there. But before we move on from, what you were just covering, when you talk about shorts, you're not, I just want to make sure I got this right. You're not referring to the current episodes. You're referring to a new style of short animations that'll start coming out. Is that right? Yeah,
like 1 to 2 minute new experimentations of new story, writers, animators, directors.
When can we expect to see the first few shorts coming out?
I think after the season finale. So like, I'm going to be realistic with you and say like April.
Cool.
April 1st.
And then in terms of one of the fascinating concepts is the staking. And I think it was different previously. Like prior to staking, it was kind of like through Discord, there was almost an audition. You own a DeadHead and, hey, we need somebody who fits these character traits. People submit their NFT, and then you select the ones that are going to appear in the episode, which again is massive for the holder, because that's their NFT that's being featured. Now with staking, can you explain to our audience how that works and how you're able to take DeadHeads from the stake pool?
Yeah, I think staking is a much better mechanism. So before, how it would work was your NFT being in the episode was like the most valuable thing that can happen, but you were also getting paid for it. And then when you were getting paid, out the mint, therefore taking money away from production for just holding the NFT. So your NFT would benefit by being in the series, and then you'd get paid. So we would be depleting our entire mint budget. So there was like this weird thing that was happening where it was like, we're spending more on stagnant pictures that we created and giving them value than we are on the people who are actually building a story, and these are only worth something if the story is getting told right. So we were like, okay, we need to rethink that method. And so but we also thought it deserves value. If you're putting your NFT up and you're giving us the ability to use it again, even though we created it, the project and the premise is that you deserve value for being shown, not just an appreciation. So we were like, let's use the show token. And the beauty of the show token is your value comes in other assets. So with the show token, you'll be able to like mint more DeadHeads items over time. And then, so you're essentially like able to accrue value just for giving us the opportunity to use your DeadHead. And we're able to use the DeadHead again and give it value by putting it in the series itself, which is like, which is important. So the casting pool essentially functions that you go on our DApp, you put in your DeadHead, and you are able to stake it for a period of 1, 3, 6, 12, or 24 months. once it's staked, you earn show token, and it's exponentially higher based on the periods in which you're staking your deadhead. And then we're able to cast your deadhead in any materials we do over those periods. It's super powerful. And I think in the future, some alpha, we're going to be able to like extend it so that like when we, so that we're able to like give other NFT projects like utility. Like, and by that, I mean like perhaps what if in the future, like other projects could, you know, join in our staking pool, then that would be pretty valuable, because then show would become a bit more, you know, plentiful around the NFT ecosystem.
For that sort of casting selection, how does that work? Like, I mean, let's say I'm staking my deadhead and I'm, you know, hoping that perhaps it'll be cast into one of the future episodes. Is that something, is it lottery based? Is it just like, do you guys, you know, is there a member on your team who just hand picks what looks like the right deadhead? I guess
there's a casting director. Yeah, there's a casting director. So the scripts are written based on what the best story would be. And then the casting director comes in and goes, okay, which in the staked casting pool, which is visible in OpenSea, which of these, you know, would be the best fit for these roles? So it's like the pool of 10,000, which it previously was where you're picking from. It's like now the pool of just staked deadheads. So it's a easier casting system. There's more opportunity for those who are casted, and you're earning a ton of show, which there's like an unknown benefit, but like in the future and even now with the green room has like very interesting implementation. So the casting pool works as such that the casting director just picks.
One of the things you had talked about there was the ability to take your deadhead, and since you own the IP to it, to do some cool things on the side. Now, we saw an example of that in the Bored Ape Yacht Club with Jenkins the valet, and it's just mind-blowing. Somebody taking single Bored Ape and like turning this whole like own NFT project around it. Can you break down, because I've heard about it, but I don't know the story regarding Sal. Is that the first example of somebody who has taken a deadhead and trying to do something similar, or what's the story behind that one?
Sal is the best example because it's like it's all verifiably done with the real company that has made incredible comics before, and Ben has gone out and built basically the foundations of what could be like something in and of itself as big as DeadHeads around Sal, which is really amicable. But there's also a few other things, like if we're just talking like businesses that are offshoots of DeadHeads, there's the Cursed Ghost Gang, which is, I'm sure you're familiar with, which is like a DAO where the ghosts came together and said, we're going to each take keys and we're going to pick up more ghosts and we're going to try and like own all the ghosts. And then that's like a little interesting like offspring business. And there's some other ones. There's a 2D animated series being built by Cool Crocs and Co. Sorry if I'm not mentioning, I think Wes actually is Wes is a community member. I think he's a huge engine in that as well. So there's some interesting projects happening, but there's ways in which people are using IP already.
To go back to some of the sort of inner workings of the project from like for holders and what they can get out of being a part of the community. I know there's definitely some other aspects we haven't talked about. I mean, there's so many, it's probably going to be hard to cover it all. But for example, we're talking about deadheads, and there's the deadhead PFPs, but there's also skull troopers now. There's also, I'm going to try and just like rail off a few things I know about it, see if you can touch on them, because there's also burning and then evolving will come soon. So there's a few different aspects as well to what currently exists. Can you maybe touch on some of those things?
Okay, so this all began because we believe that if you make the project fantastic and like full of utility, that long term, like you're going to win out because you're just building something that matters instead of just building a house of cards. So we set out to build as much as we possibly could. And then now we find ourselves like, okay, now we've kind of built on top of it and top on top of. And so now it gets kind of tough to explain to newcomers all the infrastructure, but a lot of really interesting things have a lot of infrastructure. Not everyone needs to know it. So like on the one hand, like it is a lot to digest. If I'm going to break it all down in a minute. But on the other hand, it's like there's a lot of things we consume that we don't fully understand the entire ecosystem, but we enjoy the parts that we do understand. So I'll break down the entire ecosystem right now to the best of my ability. We have DeadHeads, which is the core collection. Now, DeadHeads have a common enemy in season 1, and they might continue, and they're called the Skull Troopers. These Skull Troopers are critical to the story in that they kind of they play in and kind of maintain the order of the underworld, as it were, right? And they're really great characters. We released 10,000 of these, and they're still minting. And the purpose of releasing these was because building an entertainment and production is pretty much as good as much as you can get in terms of money. So other projects will mint stuff, and then they'll just be like, here's merch. Now we took that whole Skull Troopers mint, and it's sitting waiting to be deployed to make the best story we can possibly can. And we're deploying it as we go, and like to the right people in the entertainment space and storytellers, and trying to figure out using that Skull Troopers mint to make all of DeadHeads better. So everyone who bought a Skull Trooper is in essence giving themselves show token for buying the Skull Trooper, helping fund the future of DeadHeads, and getting the common enemy, which is like essentially could be like seen as, you know, a mutant or what have you. You got them for free if you had DeadHeads originally, but there's people buying them up to get in the ecosystem. And people often talk about how having like a low price is bad, having a low floor is bad. But if you actually take a step back, it's having a low entry point. If you're trying to build a giant community, is like not a bad thing. So long as people are actually joining, it's like a really good thing. And then, so this is to explain. So season 1, you have DeadHeads and Skull Troopers. Now DeadHeads have an interesting story. So in season 2, they have to evolve. And the working title for that is called Halo Heads. I say working title because I'm the one who's kind of on the fence about the title, but Halo Heads are basically these evolved versions of DeadHeads that you can only get through destroying a Deadhead. So this is good because it keeps the supply of DeadHeads and Halo Heads around 10K, and it keeps the supply of Skull Troopers around 10K. So you're not like glutting supply, but you're adding more diversity to the ecosystem. And that's what we're really excited about with the Halo Heads. And also it's enabling us to introduce some new art into our ecosystem. And in a space that's predicated by art, whether you believe it or not, because some people, it is a great argument, no one even cares about the art. But if you believe it's predicated on art, the NFT space, then keeping up with that is critical. And Halo Heads enables us to like push the boundaries of art once again while keeping it within the DeadHeads ecosystem.
Ulf, do you realize our audience has been either watching or listening to this episode for 20 minutes?
20 minutes? No, they should probably subscribe.
Yeah, they should subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you comment and turn on notifications. And if you're listening to this podcast, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review.
We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. So go check out the episode description. You can find all that information below. And we have an update on the NFT, don't we?
That's right. We didn't previously mention this, but this NFT for OG supporter is a one of one. There will only be one of this kind ever minted, and we have a few surprises for the person who purchases it. The link is in the episode description.
And back to the episode.
How important is it in your mind to be able to pivot or act quickly? Because I've seen a couple examples of that. One that I'm thinking of, I don't know if I'm going to explain it perfectly, but it was something along the lines of, I think you had to own a Deadhead for a certain amount of time before you could do something. I can't remember specifically what that was. And then recently there was an announcement where you no longer have to do that. But I've seen you guys adapt and that kind of thing. But is that kind of your mantra that, you know, no matter what happens, you'll be able to pivot quickly?
Yeah, there's no limits pivoting. Any good business, any good startup pivots. We're startup. I mean, we have a great community, but we're like early, right? We have to be able to pivot and adjust. And there's a lot of things we've done wrong, right? And there's some things we've done right. And like, there's a lot of things we're going to do wrong in the future, a lot of things we're going to do right. But if we can't look at the new information we receive and pivot, then what are we doing? It was a team member who came with a 30-day plan to like encourage holding, but instead it discouraged buying more than encourage holding. So we were like, all right, let's pivot out of that. And then there's, there's no limits to pivots. Like the shorts is a pivot, right? We went from giving everyone 10-minute episodes to saying, listen, we could keep going, doubling down on a storyline here, but there's no evidence that the storyline will hit the masses other than us all liking it. So we need to see what hits the masses and then double down on one of those or two of those or three of those stories and people. So there's no limit to pivoting and like being nimble. I mean, we even look at DeadHeads artwork and say, okay, if the floor went down and people started getting like, and it was chaos and it was mayhem, we could introduce ways to change your original Deadhead if we had to. There's no limit to the people we could bring on board. I mean, we could chop up like equity in the overall brand and bring in all the right people tomorrow. We're just trying to figure out the ways in which for the 10-year vision, not the 6-month, I'm trying to flip your NFT vision, And that's the toughest part of this is all your signals, not all, a lot of your signals are like people who are like trying to get in and out. Cause that was just like the core of NFTs. It's like you see an article saying you're about to make 100K. So like you jumped in an NFT, right? So I don't know, I've gone off a lot. I sound like I'm on a lot of different tangents here, but my core point is like everything we do is about reacting based on new information, but not too quickly. Just trying to get the overall vision and react.
Yeah, no, well explained. And something that's interesting. So we recently interviewed Fuck Render, who's another, I guess, fellow Vancouverite, great NFT artist. And one thing that was interesting was we got into the discussion of, sometimes in the Discords, there's this a certain attitude of somebody mints a project and they have these expectations because, to your point, there's headlines of all of these things people have done, and we have seen projects 100x, 1000x. So somebody thinks, okay, I minted something, maybe Skull Troopers, for example. I minted one. Why has it gone down? Why has it stayed even? Why isn't it 3x from this point? How much pressure do you feel in that situation? I mean, is there a real pressure on, okay, the floor price is slipping, we've got to do something different? Or is the team more just focused on, you're like, you know what, we know what we're doing long term, that's got to be the focus? Like, where's that balance?
It's tough, man. At the beginning, it was impossibly tough. At the beginning, it was impossibly tough because we were on the top. We were topping everything with volume at like, we were anyways, it was tough because it's hard to discern who's a fan and who's not a fan. And the reality is, before you have any content, nobody's a fan because there's nothing to be a fan of. So we were taking all these signals early on of people who really just wanted us to take that entire mint budget and plunge it into marketing. And you could do that. I mean, you could go get a billboard in Times Square and then your project goes to zero. I could tell you off the top of my head, like 10 projects that done in the last month, right? Like you could, if you wanted to pump for the flippers, pump for a month and then let the whole project die out and never, ever, ever be relevant again. So that's the thing. It's like a lot of people do want that from you, and they'll message us and you even got death threats. Like sometimes when the price wasn't going up, like someone would be like, I could have bought Apes and I bought yours. Like you owe me. It's like, it's tough, man. It's really tough. But I think for us, like it's always been a passion and a long-term vision because I love film. So it's like, and I know, like, I'm not even half. I know the person with the best IP will win out. So it's not Doodles and Cool Cats. They're planning to make movies. Like every studio we talk to, right? But they have none of the infrastructure and none of the planning. So their end goal is to end up where we're starting. That's the way I'm seeing it right now. So it's like what we're working out in the space and what we're learning in terms of building IP and through content, specifically these animated shorts and animated series. I mean, it's necessary to invest for the long term, even when the floor is low. Like it's a shame that the floor isn't higher for the people who believe in it most. And that's the only reason I care, is so that the believers would have that external validation. But otherwise I could give less of a shit. I actually think meantime people say it's often a good thing because people can get in.
I think that even though that can be that must be a huge concern or feel like that when there's a big portion of the community, putting that pressure on you. But to the other part of the community that is only ever showing support, some of what I've seen is people really support the vision you guys have produced for DeadHeads, and they support the the more grand plan that's in place. And so, for example, even a lot of the things you've already touched on here, you could have minted a whole new spin-off of artwork, but instead, rather than flooding the supply, taking DeadHeads and now implementing this evolution so that there's not more, but rather it's more opportunity for the current holders. It's things like that, I think, that just show the integrity of the project, and I think is what has the true sort of believers and supporters holding long term and sort of hanging on for the ride to get to that end goal. Is that, do you kind of feel like
that was beautiful? That was beautifully put. And that's the beauty of DeadHeads. I would run through a fucking wall for the people in our Discord community, like, because they give us the breathing room. like you're saying right there, and we in turn want to give back everything we can, from show tokens to this evolving to this give free sculpture. Like for us and for the community now, it's taken months, but we're like the people who are rooted we're all in the same mission, it feels now, which is like it's do or die on content and good content, and everything else is just speculation and like and we're playing like the PFP game, you know.
You were on Props and Drops with Matt Kalish and Gary V, and it's an interesting comparison because you have something like VeeFriends, which is much less decentralized. Like it's more of a centralized, you don't own the IP, but you've got an operator who's kind of with a proven track record like Gary Vaynerchuk. But like, how do you compare the two projects, and maybe even throwing in the mix, just talking about IP in general, how Bored Ape is a little bit different, how you do own the IP there as well, but maybe there's not any or as much creative control driving, you know, your individual NFT to have greater value per se. But like, how do you see, like, what are the pros and cons of those different systems, centralized versus decentralized, on that side of things?
I mean, first I'll speak on Bored Apes. Bored Apes actually originated reinvestment. Before Bored Apes, you'd buy an artist's work, and that was that. Bored Apes said, no, we'll buy Plot and Sandbox, we'll buy this, we'll buy that, we'll give you these dogs. Oh, wait, what? You're giving back to us? We just minted your artwork, right? So Bored Apes actually didn't just find the model of IP. They made popular the model of IP, but that was actually, we already were doing that with our house. Like that was popular in the NFT space to give IP. It was like, is a smart contract, we should get the IP. But they made it popular, but what they really made popular was reinvestment. It became, Bored Apes was a business, not a piece of art, right? Anyways, they're event based and they do a really good job of landing these events, whereas we're narrative based, we're story, like linear, and we're trying to integrate events. So it's like we're trying to give more value to the holder than in terms of like IP than Bored Apes are. But Bored Apes have such a rabid community and such, like, it's impossible to argue that they're not building an incredible IP. They're just doing it a different way, and it's event based, and like they've crushed it. Now VeeFriends is interesting. VeeFriends is interesting because it's there's like a timer on your NFT. So there's no precedent for how that's going to work, where it's like after the VCons run out, do people maintain it for the artwork? Do people love the artwork? Do people love Gary? We have a lot of mixed signals, but VeeFriends have even more mixed signals.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about Vancouver and the fact that it's an interesting spot it's kind of like a hotbed for NFT like creators who are just, you know, you think about Roham, you mentioned Top Shot earlier, you've got, Fuckrender, you guys. What is the NFT scene or the crypto scene in Vancouver, and have you kind of immersed yourself in that? I'm
going to add two more to that list. Bored Becky, Fame Ladies, Head,
right,
and Doodles.
Right, yeah.
So it's mental how hot Vancouver is. And for the record, like, we don't know any of these people. I don't think any of these people know each other. I mean, Roham and Doodles know each other, like, because there's a connection with Poopy. And then like maybe Fuckrender knows these people because he's bigger than us, like is an individual, is like an individual influencer. Right. But I don't know any of these people. Like, I don't know how Vancouver ended up being such an NFT hotspot. Like
it's like random.
I don't get it. We're going to need some sociologists come in and be like, during this time period, like Vancouver was experiencing like an artist. Like,
yeah, fair enough. Another Vancouver person is Mac Flavel, and so he's working on.
Oh my God, of course.
Yeah. So he was with CryptoKitties and then Big Head Club, and he's been kind of behind Stoner Cats, which is well known as Mila Kunis. She's the big name behind that project. But was there controversy there in the early days? Because I thought that they were kind of saying, oh, we're the first NFT animation. And then you guys had your hand up and like, no, over here, we've been doing this for a while. Like, what was the story there?
Well, it's a hell of a PR line to say you're the first NFT entertainment or animated series, right? It's a hell of a PR line. So when they hired a PR agency who didn't know anything about NFTs, they probably just assumed, because we didn't do any PR, you'd have to be in the NFT community to know DeadHeads existed in that first month. They weren't, right? The PR company. So they just went off with that headline and ran with it. But now our relationship with Stoner Cats is so good. We had a call yesterday with the whole team pretty much. Like we've gone from like thinking that Stoner Cats is a competition to realizing the reality where it's not a zero-sum game. Stoner Cat succeeding is DeadHeads succeeding. DeadHeads succeeding, Stoner Cat succeeding. There's not a single entertainment like fundamental in any NFT project right now in like the top, like the top 100. And so that just speaks to the fact that like this is like pretty untapped. So we need to work with Stoner Cats to find those people instead of working like I thinking that they were in some way competition,
On that note, if you watch the episodes, there's a couple mentions of Stoner Cats. There's appearances of Bored Apes in the episodes. How does that work when you're like from an IP standpoint, from a crossover standpoint? Are you guys working together? Are those just nods? How does that play out?
Yeah, when we use people's NFTs, we go through. We pay and we go through contracts, kind of like what I was talking about earlier.
Right.
So using other NFT projects was kind of critical to our vision because we wanted to speak to all the NFT community. The NFT community just scaled so fast that what happened like last month, people didn't even know like this month, so that was like an unforeseen problem.
Right.
And because it went so parabolic that it wasn't like any of the people watching it were like who even knew what Misfits University was or what have you. Like these like jokes would just come and they would disappear, right. And then the space would 2x. So this whole cohort of people had never heard of what just happened a month prior. And we were writing episodes a month apart. So now we're spacing ourselves and like taking our time and trying to get more real world jokes while also incorporating like core NFTs.
I think that's why, like personally, as someone who's a fan of the project, I really think that this idea of shorts is a really great idea. The episodic thing, as we've just identified, has some challenges with how fast the space moves and just with how people digest content. I'm excited to see shorts coming out personally as a fan.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to promote something too. Like right now we promote so many things. It's like, hey, today it's like Halo is lifted. Tomorrow it's like staking, spurting. It's like if you're a new entrant into the community, it can be really, really tough to figure out like what's going on. So our entire like February and January have been working with branding agencies to like dissect how we can like get our messaging across like extremely succinctly. The shorts would be a great way to do that. It's like, here's like, this is the event every Friday night or what have you. It's like, this is where you need to be.
We're getting close to the end of this conversation, and it's been fascinating. Like such a good, I feel like this is a great episode for just deep dive of like somebody who's like, what is DeadHeads? Like we dove into everything, but two questions I want to ask you. The first one is in general, like really we've been kind of 1 year into this since there's a certain level of popularity amongst all NFTs and that kind of thing. I know that they exist back to 2017, but really it picked up in early 2021. What do you make of the evolution so far? I mean, when you guys got into this, you and Tempo, did you ever expect that we would come as far as we have and that NFTs would be as popular as they are?
A lot of days I'll tell you no, but today I'm remembering when I joined in January, it was an article saying CryptoPunks had like someone had to do a CryptoPunk for 0.1 and now they're 4 ETH. Like this person made 40x. So when I joined, it was predicated on people in November making money in January of 2021. And it felt like it was over, which is hilarious. But it was all predicated on multiples and PFPs.
Yeah.
Like real artwork was doing well, but the core was CryptoPunks. Now the core is Bored Apes, a PFP. And it's all predicated on articles about how much money people made on Bored Apes. Yeah. So I could tell you it's totally different, but actually it looks a hell of a lot the same.
Yeah. Now that's a good point. So this is the second part of that question, continuing on that thread, is where do you see, like if you have to crystal ball gaze a little bit, where do you see the next evolution being? I mean, people have talked about things like music NFTs and obviously what you guys are doing with the whole entertainment series, animated series. Where do you see the future of NFTs going that maybe the average person listening to this, it's not even on their radar?
Whatever is next is super similar to what was before, but never the same, right? So maybe it won't be 10K, maybe it won't be PFPs. It'll take parts of what made Bored Ape popular and it will iterate on them in the right ways, the same way Bored Ape took the parts which made punks popular, which was the identification and the clout. And they iterated by reinvesting and adding utility. there will be this is going to happen to the next thing. It won't look like Bored Apes. It'll look a little different, but it'll people will really gravitate towards it. But here's what I'll say on that. Specifically, if you're a regular person, joining a Discord with a bunch of punks or apes isn't appealing. You don't use Discord, and sometimes you don't even use Twitter. Most people don't even like look at Twitter every day, right? Like being part of these communities isn't desirable for you because you don't even use these applications, nor do you want. It's like you join a tennis club if you play tennis because you want to rub shoulders with those other people who are good at tennis and they're maybe have nice homes and give you good dinners, whatever, right? If you're going to join a club, and NFTs are clubs, right? You want to join one where it relates to your life. And I think the thing that's most relatable to a lot of our lives is like entertainment. So I think that's why I do think entertainment is next. And I'm obviously super biased, but it's very palpable for me to want to consume a Deadhead if I'm a fan of like the series on TikTok or YouTube or what have you. If we can get to that vision where we reach mass appeal, it's much more appealing to be part of something where you're not in Discord and needing to be in Discord to see the value.
Right.
That's my take.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's going to be so interesting to see kind of what the next year holds because so much has happened in 1 year. But Jeremy, this has been an awesome conversation. We like to end every episode of Show Me the Crypto with the same 3 questions we ask every single guest. It's a segment that we call You Had Me at Crypto. So Alf's going to ask you those questions.
All right, Jeremy, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Who's your favorite person to follow in the crypto space?
Naval.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
That's a popular answer.
That's a popular one.
It's a good one. Yeah.
All right. Second question. What will the price of Bitcoin be 10 years from now?
I mean, people have wild answers on these, and any answer is applicable because so much money enters. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give a more conservative one. 10 years, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I think 600K.
Right.
That is a conservative. That's like right in the middle of the average.
It's conservative, but it's good.
Yeah,
still good.
Yeah. I think 10 trillion as like an overall market cap or what have you is probably like on the money.
Nice. All right. Third question. What is the most underrated coin or project in all of crypto?
Other than Deadheads.
Thanks, guys. I'm recently looking at Anchor Protocol on Luna. Stake it, you get 30%. It's the infrastructure that pretty much anyone who uses UST or Luna uses, and Luna's been going pretty brablic. Yeah. And Anchor Protocol is not doing that well. So I'd maybe even say that, but that's super weird because I just found out about that a week ago. Let me give a different one. Actually, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna say Zed Run is actually underrated.
Zed Run.
I'm not familiar with that.
No one knows about it now.
I don't know about
That's what I'm saying. When I came to space, it was like Top Shot, Art Blocks, Zed Run, CryptoPunks. Like these were like marquees. And Zed Run I thought was the cleverest because it incorporated gambling and NFTs. There was a reason you could breed horses. If your horse won the race, it's like horse racing. You could watch it on Twitch like 24/7. So it was like so clever, and I was obsessed with it.
How have I never heard of this? That's crazy. That's crazy. I'll have to check it out.
I don't know.
Underrated.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think people sleep on the gambling NFTs. I think that niche is like going to be pretty big.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. This has been an awesome conversation. We appreciate you joining us on this episode of Show Me the Crypto.
Thank you so much, everyone who's watching. Thank you guys for hosting me. I will see you all in the underworld.
Thank you for listening to Show Me the Crypto. Please make sure to subscribe as well as rate and review this podcast.